1952, 35 people died when floodwaters caused by a spectacular storm thundered down from Exmoor and washed away the village of Lynmouth in North Devon. The disaster is always put down to being a tragic act of God, but it now seems possible the hand of man might have played a part. Not long after it, rumours began to circulate that RAF planes had been used in rain-making experiments over southern England. The Ministry of Defence has always denied it, but evidence suggests otherwise, as Mike Thompson reports.
By mid-afternoon on the 15th of August 1952, it was already almost dark. Locals and holidaymakers alike looked up in alarm at the skies above, wondering what on earth was about to happen next.
Oh, it was a day and a night that we shall never ever forget. A most eerie day.
I'd never seen a sky that colour. Yellowy, greeny, purple. It was
9 inches of rain had fallen, and the East and West Lynn rivers, swollen to bursting, broke their banks. Thousands of tons of water, boulders and trees cascaded down onto the village from the moors above. By sunrise, it was like a scene from the Blitz. The whole world was shocked.
I knew very little about Lynmouth before I arrived. When I looked around, I was almost glad I didn't. It was this stream, swollen with rain, that became a raging torrent.
Amongst those involved in the rescue operation was a young soldier called Tony Speller. Many years later, after he became the Conservative MP for North Devon, he remembers getting a visit from a Lynmouth cafe owner who was convinced that rain-making experiments carried out by military planes had helped cause the tragedy. Initially, Mr. Speller dismissed such talk as ridiculous, but then he remembered his army days on Salisbury Plain back in 1950, just 2 years before the Lynmouth flood.
Overhead on a brilliant summer, there were planes always around, and the sergeants told us, the officers didn't talk to the privates, that these were actually seeding the clouds and trying to create rain.
But when, as an MP, he tried to get more details about such experiments during this period, he was told that the relevant files were missing. And to this day, he's not been able to get any answers. The BBC was more fortunate. A spokeswoman for the Ministry of Defence was happy to set the record straight.
The MOD has not and do not conduct cloud seeding experiments. I trust this settles the matter.
It did, until I talked to this man.
We flew straight through the top of the cloud, pulled the cord, and down went the dry ice into the cloud. And we waited down at the bottom of the cloud to see whether any rain in fact came out, and it did, about 30 minutes later, and everybody cheered.
Group Captain John Hart remembers flying on that successful rain-making mission as an RAF officer back in 1949, and he's none too happy about suggestions that it never happened.
I cannot understand how the Ministry of Defence will say that these things did not happen. I have the proof. The Public Record Office have the proof. If you don't believe that, I'm sorry.
The BBC has also come across another document held in the Public Record Office. It makes clear that cloud seeding, which involves firing or dropping particles of salt, dry ice or silver iodide into clouds to make them rain, was being investigated by the military. The following is taken from an Air Ministry meeting held in the War Office in 1953.
Possible uses. A. To increase rainfall over a given target area in order to bog down enemy movement in that area. B. To increase rainfall, thereby increasing the water flow in rivers and streams to hinder or stop enemy crossings. C.
Another formerly secret document details concerns raised by the Air Ministry over who would be financially liable if cloud seeding experiments went wrong. Nearly 50 years on, the river with its new floodplain flows tamely through Lynmouth as if that terrible night never happened. And despite the growing holes in official claims, it's still impossible to prove that anyone but God was to blame for the tragedy. But this doesn't stop survivor Ray Davey from feeling increasingly suspicious.
Was that rain induced? You don't know. What goes on behind closed doors in this country today? And then,